here with a Tuesdays in the Attic video for you. I just showed you the measurements from the Freaky Fast formula that we're following today, as well as the layout that I'm scrap lifting, because it is May I Scrap Lift You month. And so May 2nd's suggested scrap lifter or person that we should be scrap lifting is Sandra, who is ScrappyGal13 on Instagram. So I will leave the links for her down below. I also did a shout out for her in April. So please go check her out, show her some love, say hello, and you'll be able to find all the details of her layout with her links. But I just thought it was really fun. And this is kind of a trendy thing going on right now, the circle with the triangles coming out. And I haven't really done one in a really long time. So I thought I'm going to go ahead and see how I can make the measurements from this Freaky Fast formula from the Scraproom. How can I make these work for me to be able to scrap lift this layout? So I didn't really know ahead of time if it was going to work or how I might do it. I just thought I'll pick the layout and I'll pick the papers and I will jump in and see what happens. So this is the Later Skater collection from Close to My Heart. It's a few years old. So, you know, it's been in my stash for a while, and the How to Kill a Kit with Style theme for this month is grunge. So this works perfectly. It's definitely that kind of like grungy skater type feel to it. Going back to my Avril Lavigne days, I guess you could say. And so I thought it worked really good. So I pulled out a photo that I thought would work, that I would be able to cut into a circle, and then looked at all of the measurements and kind of found the papers that I thought would work the best for each of the measurements. And so I've gone ahead and cut those down. So let me see if I can remember. The largest piece there is 7 by 7, and then there was a 1 inch by 12 inch piece, a little 3 by 3 inch piece, a 5 inch by 2 inch piece, and then the circle was a 4 inch circle. So I don't have a circle cutter quite that big. So I kind of eyeballed it. I just cut out the square, and then you saw me kind of fold it up to go ahead and cut the circle from it. I could have found a circle to trace. There's lots of other ways I could have done this. But I knew that that paper would be covered up by a picture, that I would be using it as a mat. So I was okay with folding it and kind of cutting a rough circle from it. It's not perfect, but that's okay. That's life. I kind of do a little bit of, bending and playing around, distressing the edges of the paper, which I think fits the theme of the paper, but also kind of hides those little imperfections, because I'm an eyeballer. I know a lot of you guys are too. That is definitely one trick. If you kind of rough up your edges, then people don't see that you didn't measure or that you cut something without using your paper trimmer. So wink, wink, we all know, but other people won't. So got all of those measurements cut, and then I put them to the side, cut down my photo as well. And now I want to do a little bit of inking. And I have the Later Skater stamp set that you can see right there, which has that little square that kind of looks like the metal, not metal grates. I don't know. I know exactly what the word is. And if you said it to me, I would be like, yep, that's exactly what I'm talking about. But right now I can't think of what it is. But anyways, it's like the metal flooring. And so I thought that would look really cool and kind of add a little bit of texture around the layout. And then I'm going to do a little bit of kind of smooshing here as well, just to messy it up and kind of match that grungy, distressed feeling from the paper. And I love these 3 colors together. I don't know what it is, but they look really great with this collection. And when you mix the 2 different blues, one's the peacock feathers, the other one is Stormy Seas. Is that what it's called? And then it's fossilized amber. When you mix them together, you get this really cool, almost like a lime green. And so that matches this collection as well. So those 3 colors, I have done a couple of layouts recently with them because I'm working with these papers, and I just really love this color scheme right now and love how those distress oxides are blending together. So I had to do a little bit of smushing there. And that also gave me a little bit of time to kind of think about what I was going to do. So in my mind, I was trying to decide, do I try to create triangles out of all of these blocks of paper, strips of paper, or do I try to recreate the layout and do some sort of similar layering technique, but using the actual like measurements that were given to me? So strips of paper and a couple of big squares. And in the end, I decided to go ahead and cut them. It's going to look totally different from Sandra's layout just because I'm keeping the size of the papers, and I literally just cut them in half. So two of them are perfect perfect squares. So I have these triangles, and then two of them were rectangles. So the shape that you can see for their triangles are a little bit different. So it definitely is more kind of random and chaotic than the layout that I'm scrap lifting, but I like it. And again, I think it really fits the papers and kind of just fits the whole attitude and feel of the layout. So once I committed and I cut them, I just decided now I have to figure out how to get them all to stick properly without totally covering up all of that beautiful watercolor inking. I guess it's not really watercolors, that distress smushing and stamping that I've done. So I played around a little bit with them, and when I realized I could kind of get them to fit like this, where I'm almost doing a top and bottom little cluster of triangles, then I just decided to go for it and start sticking all of these triangles down. So I fuss a little bit. I didn't want them, I felt like you either had to have them mirrored exactly or you had to have them completely random. It kind of didn't look great if you just sort of had them close enough to being mirrored, but not perfectly mirrored, because then you could tell that something just didn't look right. And so the more that, I couldn't get them to match up exactly and be a mirror of each other, I figured I have to go completely kind of wonky and have them not line up at all. So that's really where the playing around came from. And then also just making sure that these really long strips could fit. So I did have to cut them down. I don't know if that's technically cheating, but I don't think it is. The Freaky Fast formulas are really just that like starting off point. Essentially, you get the measurements and nothing else. They don't tell you what types of paper to use. I mean, it does say pattern paper, but that could be anything. That could be going into a specific collection and picking out papers like I did here. It could be all the same pattern paper. You could use cardstock. You could make your own pattern paper. They really don't guide you as to what you're going to pick. All they do is tell you, hey, cut some papers into these measurements, these sizes, and see what you can do with them. And so I feel like this is kind of the culmination of now several months of working with the Freaky Fast formulas, is that I'm starting to have the confidence to cut my papers and then look outside the box about how I can use them. So it's not just about taking those papers exactly the way they've been cut and moving them around the page and seeing what I can do with them. But now I'm starting to realize I can play around a bit more. I can experiment a little bit more and figure out how to stretch these papers even further than what I have been doing. So this was definitely kind of a fun experience because it's more out of the box than I have been so far with this series. And it was a lot of fun to put together, and I do really love my kind of wild take on it. And I think it worked out really good. Have you ever had a couple of days of creating where everything you've created, you've just been like, oh my goodness, I love it so much? That was this past couple of days. It started with this layout and it kind of kept going. The next layout that I'm going to post for May 9th Freaky Fast Friday at Tuesdays in the Attic, I also was super excited and love. So yeah, I think this turned out really good. So once I got the papers down, I went ahead and bent up all the edges and distressed them a little bit. And then I went into all of my embellishments that I have in my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit. So these are all Cocoa Vanilla, but a few different collections. There's the Boys Rule, Legendary, and I don't think I take out any of the No Limit stuff, but I do have that mixed into my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit as well. I just think I end up sticking with the Legendary stuff and the Boys Rule stuff. So I pulled out some of the chipboard pieces as well as some of the little die cut ephemera paper pieces and kind of moved them all around. So the way that Sandra has her embellishments, she had a couple little things up in her triangles, but then most of it was to the side of the photo and down underneath the photo. And so I wanted to kind of keep all of my main cluster to the side of my picture where I have my little bit of mixed media, but I definitely wanted to have something tucked into the layers of the triangles, both the top and bottom set. So I pulled out some stars to kind of tuck in there and one little tag that says, I think that one said memorable. I just kind of tucked that in there as a bit of an interest on the left-hand side of the picture, kind of on the top left of the picture, I guess you could say. And then everything else, I'm just going to make a little cluster over to there you can see me kind of trying to figure it out and make sure I have everything sort of oriented in the same way. So everything's a little bit random. It wasn't one giant cluster all kind of stuck together. And so I wanted to make sure that not everything I had was layered and touching, but still made some sort of sense. And so I've got a flare and I've got a couple of little words. One says incredible. And then I've got, that sort of banner title, I guess you could say, says one of a kind. And then I loved these arrows, so I went ahead and popped them down too. And I really think they draw your eye to the mixed media because that one little splotch right there, I love it. It turned out so good. It just kind of blended really nicely. And then on that big chipboard sheet, I think the circles are supposed to be planets, maybe, because that's from the No Limits collection. But I popped out a couple of the circles that kind of match the colors from the papers. So I went ahead and kind of randomly put those down as well. So that's most of the embellishments. And then here I'm just going to add some sequins to kind of give it a little bit of shimmer, a little bit of extra texture. And that's really it. This is my layout. I am not even going to do a sketchy border around the edges. I like the white space all around it. I think this turned out so fantastic. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please go check out the May I Scrap Lift You playlist. Check out Jacqie and also check out Sandra. And I will be back again tomorrow. So until then, happy scrapping. Bye.
Button, my channel.